Hey guys, Chris here from Personal Survival Tactics, and today we're talking about the book Kenpo Karate, Law of the Fist and Empty Hand by Ed Parker. If you don't know who Ed Parker is and you're into martial arts or into self-defense, you should. Just the father of American karate. I'm not going to go down his list of accomplishments because that is not what this video is about, but if you're interested in martial art history or practical self-defense even, you should know Ed Parker, and if you don't, I would suggest looking him up. Quite an interesting figure in the martial world. Now, my background in particular is in, most of my background is in American Kenpo in the Ed Parker system. I've been training in it for over 30 years, and so I am a little bit favored towards Mr. Parker and all his accomplishments and his teachings. But anyway, let's get back to the book. So Kenpo Karate, Law of the Fist and Empty Hand, Mr. Parker's first book, came out in the early 1960s. If you have an interest in self-defense and collecting old martial art books and Kenpo, you're a Kenpo practitioner, you should check this book out. You should read this book. I think it even nowadays, this book really holds water. It's a really good book. Let's go through it a little bit. So we started off, and of course we got the table of contents, the preface, a little bit of the history of Kenpo, and Mr. Parker talks about humility and self-restraint. He talks about what a gi is. And again, remember, this is from the early 60s because unlike now, the general public had no clue. This was really, karate in general was, largely unknown. So he goes through that, how to tie your belt. He talks about mental conditioning, proper breathing, as in regards to self-defense training or karate. Developing the senses. And he has a whole chapter or a whole section on physical conditioning. He talks about, the importance of working out, lifting weights, getting into shape in order to be able to defend yourself better. Different warm-up exercises. These are all done in drawings. And then he goes into Makawari board, how to construct one. So there is a whole diagram in here and information on how to build one. He has drawings on different parts of the body you should strike with and develop, condition. Hands and feet. Condition the hands with he talks about starting off with flour and then beans and rice and getting into sand, gravel, and lead shot. Different natural weapons. And then he talks about the study of human anatomy, attacking what happens when you attack different parts of the body, what could potentially happen to that person. He has a whole list over here. And some basic strikes, ready positions. Now we get more into, we get away from the drawings and get into actual photographs. He doesn't go into kicking that much. Again, Kenpo, if you know Kenpo, it's a hand art. We're 80% hands. For the most part, our kicks are low lying, meaning really to the waist and below. The old saying in Kenpo is the only time we kick the head is when the guy's on the ground. And then we get into self-defense techniques, and you can see, even back then, Mr. Parker was categorizing, starting with grabs. And you can see where the current system has come from with some of these older moves, which is just really great. And honestly, a lot of these older techniques still work. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. I think there's a lot of A lot of practicality in these techniques. Most of the checks are missing in a lot of them, but here's twin kimono, what became twin kimono before it was named. This is also before all the names came about in our system. You got a version of basically obscure wing there, and obscure claws. Again, more grab techniques, different things. Rear shoulder grab technique, rear choke, basically a version of circling wing, wrist grabs. Bear hug defense. Underarm, overarm, side headlock. Hammerlock defense. Gets into tackle defenses. Pushes. And then he gets into punch defenses. There's a version of basically shield and sword. Dealing with someone punching you from the side, someone's trying to sucker punch you. It's basically kneel of compulsion. And those of you who are in Kenpo already know this. Those of you who aren't, obviously don't. Dealing with two punches, kick defense, using our legs to block the kicks, hands. And then we get into multiple opponents, multiple opponent attacks, dealing with multiple opponents, grab defense, multiple opponents, grab and punch defense, bear hugs, and punches. And then he starts talking about armed opponent, and he gets into some of the self-defense against clubs and knives and guns. Go through that a little bit. Some of the pictures. And again, some of this is dated, but I think if you really have an interest in self-defense, regardless of whether you're a Kenpo practitioner or into combatives, into collecting old martial art books, this book is really well worth it. It's got some a lot of great information, and a lot of people don't realize, Mr. Parker's ideas as far as practical self-defense. I've come across this quite a bit in the combatives community. I think they don't realize, American Kenpo is not traditional karate per se. It's not like traditional karate. Although this book, I say that this book, it looks more like traditional karate. And back in the day, it definitely was more like that. But it really was, Kenpo was devised and developed really to deal with modern day street attacks and what Americans find on the streets today. And it's a very flexible, dynamic system, aggressive, and a lot of ideas that are taught. And I've been in the combatives community since the mid-90s that are taught in the combatives community. Mr. Parker, and I think a lot of people think are newer ideas like attack the attacker, things like that. Mr. Parker was teaching that stuff back in the 50s and 60s. If you really know it, more gun defenses. Gun to the front, gun to the back, and one more gun. And I think that's about it. But anyway, it talks a little bit on the back about all the books that unfortunately Mr. Parker was going to release but never got a chance to, which I think really, it's such a shame. I would have loved to have seen, Ed Parker's answer to multiple attacks, everyday gestures that could save your life, Kenpo in the street. I think if those books had been published, I think a lot more people would realize how practical and effective Kenpo is, people who aren't Kenpo practitioners. But again, Kenpo Karate, Law of the Fist and Empty Hand by Ed Parker. If you don't have this book, I suggest you get it. Awesome book, quick, interesting read, And it's available on Amazon. I think it's available on the Parker family website also. And can't recommend it enough. All right, guys. Chris here for Personal Survival Tactics. Until next time, stay safe.